Right, so I'm holding by the Book of Leviticus Chapter 17 again. One holding by Book of Leviticus Chapter 17. We're still in verse 10. And we discussed, I guess, last week again about, or let's say we'll see the verse first. Again, the Torah says, "V'ishish mi beis Yisrael min agar b'soichom sheyochol kol dam v'nasat ifanai b'nefesh ha'cheles." So here again, the Torah says, Torah tells me that whatever man, right, says ish, right, double language here, of the house of Israel, of the strangers sojourn among you, that eat any blood, I'll set my face against that soul that eats blood, and will cut him off from among his people. Right, so we spoke in, I don't know, the last few weeks, I guess, about I guess hierarchy of the Jewish soul versus non-Jewish soul, right? And the fact that the Jews are chosen and what level and different things. One other thing I think I wanted to mention here, or actually two things. We'll see if I get through both of them. Not sure that I will, but we're still in the Or Chaim HaKadosh over here, and the Or Chaim HaKadosh says, makes a point here, and he says that the word over here says at the end of the verse, it says, right? Anyone there? It's going to eat blood. Fanai benefesh. Now, what does it mean over here? He says, I'm going to set my face against that soul that eats blood. Right? What does it mean, that soul? Right? What is it? What is it? Why does it say that soul? Right? Maybe I should have said those souls, maybe. Right? But why specifically? Why specifically that soul? Right? So comes the Chaim HaKadosh and says, brings down a medrash, and he says that, what are we talking about? It's singular for a reason. Right? It says in Asati Panai Benefesh, I'm going to place my face against that soul that eats blood. Right? I'm going to cut him off from among my people. See what among my people means if I get there. Right? But he says over here, he says, what does it mean, my soul? Right? What does it mean? I'm going to set my face against that soul that eats blood. What do you mean, that soul? Right? So here the Or Chaim HaKadosh brings down a medrash, and the medrash says, when it talks about that soul, who's it talking about? An individual. It's not coming to tell you, it's talking about the community. Right? Now, what's the reason? We'll have to give a little bit of background here, but what's the reason? Because Or Chaim HaKadosh says there's no power of this sin to cut off the community. All right, what does that sound like? Sounds like if Jews do certain sins, maybe the whole community gets spiritually cut off. Maybe the whole community gets wiped out. Measure for measure. Right? Remember, and this is actually going to go in hand in hand what he's going to say right after, what it means amongst your people, because essentially, which is not a popular thing to say, which no one wants to hear, but there's collective punishment. Kol Yisrael Ravim Zeh L'Zeh, we mentioned this many times. Jews are all intertwined. Right? So if a Jew does something wrong somewhere, secular Jew, Orthodox Jew be worse. Right? But if they do something, the entire Jewish people get, could get severely punished. And we see that all over. Right? Simply, we see it by the Chet HaEgel, sin of the golden calf. Right? What happened by the sin of the golden calf? Who who made this, threw this calf into the fire and it came out speaking or whatever, right? Who are the people that did it? The Arab, right? The mixed multitude, right? The mixed multitude were the converts that came out of Egypt or came out of other places as well. Could be a little difference of opinion who they were, right? Whether they were just from Egypt or they were other people as well, other people that converted as well, right? Regardless, right? You see that God said, "Okay, me Hashem alai, who's gonna, wipe these people out?" Who came along and did it? The Levites. Very good. The Levites might have killed even family members. Who knows? Right? Or maybe not family members, but maybe their own friends, right? Who did this? Now, a person's gonna say it's only 3,000 people, right? It's only 3,000 people, and it was the Arab. Very good. Yeah, but God says for a collective punishment. He said, if I dwell amongst the Jewish people, Exodus chapter 25, verse 8, God says, build me a Mishkan, right? Build me a tabernacle so I can dwell amongst the Jewish people. Very good. Right? But if God dwells amongst the Jewish people, he says to Moses himself, he says, if I join the Jewish people, if I make my presence known amongst the Jewish people, they're all going to get wiped out. I'm going to wipe them all out. I'll wipe them all out. I'll start with you. Start from scratch. Right? I'll start with you. Moses says no. Right? And he fights for the sake of the Jewish people. So he makes a compromise. What's the compromise? Moshe Rabbeinu says, so we want you to, dwell amongst the Jewish people. If dwelling amongst the Jewish people means you're going to wipe them out, then let's make a compromise. Now, what was the compromise that God agreed to? Instead of wiping them out, he punishes the Jewish people every year because of the sin of the golden calf. Now you're going to say, come on. 3,500 years later, why should we get punished for that? We didn't do it. We weren't there. Maybe our souls were on Mount Sinai, okay, but, us physically, we're not there. We weren't there. So a person could easily make the claim and say, we weren't there. So why is there collective punishment? Because exactly of this idea. Well, what happened? This was, besides Adam and Eve eating from the tree, this is probably the single greatest catastrophe in the history of Jewish people. All right? Why do I say that? Because after Adam and Eve ate from the tree, so God brought that to the world, never should have been. But God brought that to the world. So that being the case, God had to go to plan B. Okay. Now, God had to go to plan B, even though he didn't want to. He knew what was going to happen anyway, right? He knows the thoughts of men. He knows what's going to be, right? So essentially, he knew he was going to have to go to plan B. Okay. So throughout history, we've been trying to get back to what the world was like before Adam and Eve sinned. Now, the only time in history that's ever taken place was at what period? By giving the Torah Mount Sinai. When God gave the Jewish people the Torah Mount Sinai, the world basically came back to where it was before Adam and Eve sinned. Very good. So now all they had to do, after that was go into the land. So Moses would have taken the people into the land. Very good. That's it. Creation's done. Purpose of creation is done. Evil inclination, Mr. S, is going to get, destroyed. They go into the land of Israel. Everything's done. But obviously it didn't happen. Right? That didn't happen. You have the sin of the golden calf. You have the sin of the spies. That's why they have to go around. They have to go around China. No pun intended. They have to travel for 40 years. Right? Going around because God had to wipe out that generation. Right? But imagine. That was the single greatest time in Jewish history. At that point. the Jewish people had come back to where the world was supposed to be before Adam and Eve sinned. It comes on Mr. S, the Satan, the evil incarnation, the angel of death, whatever you want to call him. He's like, I can't allow this. He says, there's no possible way I can allow such a thing. Right? I can't allow such a thing. So what's he going to do? He's going to cause the Jewish people to sin in such a major way. He's going to bring them back. He's going to bring them back down to this world. So what did he do? The Jewish people made a miscalculation. A miscalculation when the Messiah is supposed to come. Okay. They make this miscalculation. So, sorry, when Moses is supposed to come. And what does Mr. S say in order to show that even more? He showed them an image. What was the image? Right? What was the image? The image that Moses died. That was the image. So now they see that Moses died. Very good. So they say we need an intermediary. Yeah. We don't have a leader. But this whole thing is really hard to understand in general. Because if you look at the verses themselves, the verses back in the book of Exodus that speak about the sin of the golden calf make it pretty clear it's idolatry. Right? It's very hard to say it wasn't idolatry. Yeah, the commentaries, though, bend over backwards. Literally bend over backwards. Learning the merit for the Jewish people that really wasn't idolatry. Now, if every one of us would have read the verses, sounds like idolatry, smells like idolatry. Right? But, it's a superficial reading here. Now, if you really look at it in depth, and you think about it, the Jewish people were at the level that, as the Gemara says, that the Jewish people saw more at Mount Sinai, or let's say, a non-Jewish maidservant, or a Jewish maidservant saw more, more at Mount Sinai than even the prophet Yechezkel, even the prophet Ezekiel, right? Saw much more. So this is a different level altogether. Totally a different level altogether. So what do I have? The fact is, what does God do? Or what happened over here? They made a mistake. They made a mistake when Moses was coming back. But realistically speaking, you're talking about the greatest generation in the history of man. They came out of Mount Sinai, saw the miracles. I mean, they were perfect, but, they saw God face to face. At least they heard first two of the 10 commandments, and they died. God brought them back to life. Or some said they heard all the 10 commandments. Or even if they didn't, Moses gave it over to them. Very good. But what happened over here? How could it be? Everyone asked the question, not my question. Right? Everyone asked the question, how could they fall in so far, so fast? There was a simple answer. You could say it wasn't their fault. It was the Ephraim. It was all these converts. The mixed multitude. They're the ones that caused them to fall so fast. Yeah, we can blame it on them. Right? No offense to any converts out there. Or convert wannabes. Yeah? Or JITs, as I would say. Yeah? That's what I hear. You can say blame it on them. It wasn't the Jewish people, per se. It wasn't everybody else. Only 3,000 people got killed. It's a pretty amazing thing. But even by the Ephraim, even by the mixed multitude, you can say, they didn't see God face to face. They didn't see all the miracles. They didn't go through all the miracles, per se. Maybe tell me the ones in Egypt, they saw it, okay? Or if they came from other places, they heard about it, they didn't see it. But how can it be? If they saw the miracles, it's even harder to understand. How in the world can it be that they saw all this, came to Mount Sinai, and then a short time after, sinned with the golden calf? The mind-boggling thing. If a person is that level, and God brought him up to that level, he showed him things, that simple Jews saw more than the prophet Ezekiel. A lot more than he saw in any of his visions. Makes the question stronger. Yeah, God brought them up to a certain level. Okay. So you can tell me, going the mixed multitude, everyone else didn't believe, didn't fall for it. Okay. Right? You can tell me that. But how is it, if we're going to say that these people, these converts, the mixed multitude, came from Egypt. Now, they saw Egypt get decimated. They saw Egypt get destroyed. They're going to think. They're going to think this calf that could eat, and can talk, so to speak. They're going to think this thing took them out of Egypt. Well, we don't know where Moses went. Very good. They made a mistake in the calculation. Okay. They don't know where he is. So fine. So even if they made a mistake in the calculation, how is it that they think that this golden calf did what it did, all these miracles, or took them out of Egypt? Right? Very hard to understand. A simple level. They know Moses the one took them out. So then he got Aaron trying to he knew the right calculation. He knew Moses coming back. He was trying to stall. Right? Can you ever imagine? Everyone's gonna, all the women are gonna take off the jewelry. It's a stalling tactic. Obviously, it didn't work. It didn't work long enough. Yeah, till all this happens. And then Moses comes out and says, "Hey, what happened over here?" So Aaron says, "This is stiff-necked people. They're stubborn. They gave up hope pretty quick and whatever." So again, do they really believe? No. But they wanted something as intermediary. Right? That's the issue with idolatry. Not that, this thing can do this and do that and do the other thing. That's not the case. They didn't believe that. Right? They didn't believe, an idol can sit there and move and whatever. Right? But what was the call? What was the attraction, better word? What was the attraction idolatry? See, today, idolatry is not so in vogue. I mean, in some places it is. Right? But to think, the Western world, these things can really have any power. Right? Where's the mistake? Where's the mistake? I mentioned, beginning of the class, the 13 Principles of Faith, right, 2 weeks ago, that Maimonides said that he believe in God, he believe in idolatry. But what happens? Right? The first of the 13 principles is God's absolute. And he doesn't change. Morality is not relative. Very good. So what happened over here? Where's the mistake? So the Rambam at the beginning of the laws of idolatry says already in the generation of Enosh, what did people think? People thought God's on such a high level, he's going to delegate authority. He's got the celestial beings in the heavens, he's got the sun, the moon, the stars. God obviously put him there for grandeur. Not that they have power in and of themselves. They didn't believe that. Right? They didn't believe that. They knew God was in charge. So they weren't heretics in that sense. To say, there's no God and whatever. And these things have independent power. Obviously that's not true. That's why we don't believe in fallen angels. For exactly that reason. Angels have no free will. Any of these things don't have free will. Right? Animals don't have free will. They can't just do whatever they want. Right? They can choose to eat, not to eat, whatever, but they don't have free will. Eventually, they don't have free will. Right? Plants don't have free will. Celestial beings do not have free will. So what were they thinking? They were thinking that God is so lofty He's got other things to do. He's busy taking care of black holes and, keeping the universe together, keeping the Earth on its axis, so it doesn't get too close to the sun, otherwise it gets incinerated, or it doesn't go too far back. Would be like a frozen tundra, like Pluto, even though Pluto's been, demoted as a planet. So it's busy. So what did that generation think? God is so busy and God is so lofty. He's going to delegate authority to other beings, the other forces, right? Whether the sun, the moon, the star, whatever. But did they think that the sun, the moon, and all these things could do anything by themselves? No, they didn't believe that. They believed their power came from God. And he just delegated authority. So by delegating authority, he's busy doing other things. That was a mistake. It's not like they didn't believe in God. They didn't believe he's in charge. Right? That's certainly not the case. They certainly believe 100% he's in charge. He's just delegated authority. Right? So it makes us even more incredulous that God would do such a thing. Right? Right? That he would do it. Pretty unbelievable. So here's a little more graphic though. Because here you got this, you got this ego, you got this cow or whatever, ox, whatever, or calf, let's say. You got this calf that could speak. Use sorcery, you can do a lot of things, right? It could speak, it could eat. So they're like, wow, this is great. We'll use this as an intermediary. Doesn't make any sense. Does not make any sense. If you look at who the Jewish people were and what they knew, again, even if you tell me it's a mixed multitude, very good. Wasn't the majority of the Jewish people, okay. But even so, they heard about all the great miracles. They saw the miracles that they were Egyptian, let's say. Make it very easy. Right? Egyptian converts. They saw the miracles. They saw what happened in Egypt. They're like, okay, we want to join this people. We want to worship their God. Okay. How in the world can they make such a mistake? All of a sudden, God just disappeared. He's got too many, he's got many other things to do. He's too busy. He's too busy. He's going to give these other things power. That was the power of idolatry. That was for sure, the Rambam says clear, the beginning of the laws of repentance, the laws of idolatry. That was the power of idolatry. That's how it started. Right? Well, let's go a little bit beyond this. Soon we're going to start reading, the book of Numbers. And you're going to get to all kinds of stories. Again, at face value, make no sense. You got the Jews, missing watermelon that they had in Egypt. They're missing the fish. The manna that they got, the man that they got. Okay. So they can imagine whatever it was. If they wanted to taste like steak, it tasted like steak. They wanted to taste like fish, it tasted like fish. Candy bar tastes like a candy bar. They wanted other things. Right? They wanted to go back what they were used to. Right? That is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing, God says. I want them to go a roundabout way when they go to Mount Sinai. Because they go the way of the Philistines, and they might, engage them in war. They'll say, let's go back to Egypt. So he has them go in a roundabout way. Let's think. They were brutalized in Egypt. 80% of them didn't come out. Brutalized physically, spiritually. God had to take them out against their will before they went to spiritual oblivion. You want to tell me it's what they want to go back to? We missed the fish. Yeah. We missed the watermelon. They're going back to Auschwitz. What in the world is going on? What's simple explanation? Simple explanation, I would say, is God takes them out. Right? The Egyptians come running after them. They got the Egyptians behind them. Again, you get 3 million people here, give or take. And you see the Egyptians coming in running after them. And you see the ocean in front of them. Like, Moses, great job. We're so glad we're here in the desert. We got nowhere to go. Right? Nachshon ben Aminadab jumps in, and the sea splits. So we saw that miracle also. But what are they thinking? They come out of Egypt. Moses says, let's go. Yeah, we're going. They're going to let us go. But where are they going? Moses says, we're going to go to the promised land. Very good. But in the meantime, where are they? Desert. Thousands of miles, kilometers to the right, to the left. All they see is, what do they see? Dust. Maybe some, dunes in the outskirts or whatever. I remember many years ago, I went to Egypt from Eilat. I keep seeing signs on this bus. Keep seeing signs, 300 kilometers, to Cairo. All you see is dust. That's all you see. It's like a desert. You don't see anything. No houses, no nothing. It's like one long road. 250 kilometers to Cairo. Great. More dust. Right? 100 kilometers. Nothing. Don't see anything. No oasis. Nothing. Finally, you get closer, you can see the outskirts of what looks actually like civilization. Yeah? What looks like civilization. Then we get there. You get into Cairo, it's pretty amazing. I'm sure it's different now. Right? You go in these streets, no lights. Imagine going blind into a 4-corner intersection. No lights. No traffic lights. I'm sure things have changed by now, but it's kind of insane. Right? You think about it. But what's the point? Right? The point is you're in the desert. This is a desert. Yeah. You don't see anything else around you. You hope you don't get a flat tire or nothing happens. These people had everything. They're really getting beaten and everything else in Egypt. They have food. They're not starving. They're in a desert, no oasis. Right? No oasis, nothing. What did God want? Or let's say better. So what do they say? They say you took us out to a desert to die. Again, let's analyze that statement for a second. And it was like any great shakes where they lived. Well, we had water. We had food, normal food. Well, what's God working on them here? Why did he take them out to a desert? Right? The one reason they took them out of the desert because, where can you acquire Torah? Right? Acquire Torah in the midbar, in the desert. No distractions. But what was God wanted to work on? He wanted them to flex and work on their emunah muscles. That's what he wanted. That every step they took was working on their emunah. Right? Moses tells them every day you take in the man, you take in the manna, and everyone got what they needed. On Friday, you get a double portion. But guess what? When they took it in, there was no more. So they said, well, we got yesterday. What's going to be tomorrow? Right? Oh, mother hubbard, ain't nothing in the cupboard. What's going to be? And just because they got it the next day, who says they're going to get the day after? Who says they're going to keep getting double portion on Friday? This went on for a long time. But what are they thinking? They're like, we're not holding there. Maybe someone's going to sin. Maybe someone will do something. And then we're going to starve in the desert. But every step they took was God was working on their emunah. Had they lived up to that, they would have gone straight into the land of Israel. That would have been it. Right? That's one thing. Then you get the story of the spies. Send out spies, which God didn't want him to, but Moses sends out spies. God said, okay, send them out. Send out, all these great people, spiritually speaking, to go see the land, to go spy it out, see what's going on. And what they report? They spoke Lashon Hara against their giants. They saw giants. They saw people that make them look like, nothing. They said, we're going to get killed. We're going to get eaten up. What a great place. Let's all go. Who's going to sign up? Yeah? This sentence. Moses, great. You're going to take us into the land. You're going to take us into the land. We're going to get killed. Better off in Egypt. Yeah? Two people who didn't sin. Yeah? We're Yoshua, we're Joshua, and Caleb ben Yefuneh. Caleb ben Yefuneh, in order to stay, pure, whatever, he went to the cave of the patriarchs to pray. God changed Joshua's name. Instead of calling him Moshe, he called him Yeshua, added a Yud. Right? Have God's name. There's a whole question. I'm not going to get into, but there's a whole question. Why did Caleb pray by the cave of the patriarchs? And Moses changed Yoshua's name. Right? Or Hosea became Yoshua. Right? Why did he just have him pray? The cave of the patriarchs. Or change Caleb's name. Either way. Yeah, again, not my question. But the issue is, you got these giants. Land's going to spit us out. We're, even if we make it there, we're going to get slaughtered. Aren't they forgetting? Aren't they forgetting a major thing? What's the thing they're forgetting? Didn't God annihilate? Didn't God annihilate the Egyptians? Didn't he entirely destroy their whole nation? Didn't God do it above nature? He did it above nature. Frogs, blood, frogs, vermin, wild animals, plague of darkness, killing of the firstborn. Above nature, what God did. How did they forget? How is that possible to forget? And they saw God at Mount Sinai. God's going to let him down? Brought him out into the desert to die? What would be the point? There would be no point. Because Torah says, I brought you out for what? To keep Torah mitzvahs. To separate you from the nations. Very good, not to eat shrimp. I separated you from the nations, okay? To keep my Torah. Who do what? He's going to bring them in the desert to kill them? Doesn't make sense logically. Does not make any sense logically. Not only that, he's going to bring you into the land that's going to have, it's a land flowing with milk and honey. Very good. It's going to be this great land. And now the people are giants. They're going to swallow us up. He didn't, it's not like these people that went were like bottom of the barrel Jews over here. These were great, great people, spiritually. And they cried out and they spoke Lashon Hara against the land of Israel. So what does the Gemara say? The Gemara says, oh, you want to speak badly against the land for nothing? I'm going to make you remember this for all generations. I'm going to make you cry out in all generations. And what was that, Tisha B'Av? That was the 9th of Av, which we commemorate the destruction of the temples. Right, first temple, second temple. And a lot of tragedies happened on the 9th of Av. I think the first 2 world wars started then. They got thrown out of Spain. Jews got thrown out of Spain at that time. It's a very bad time in Jewish history. Right, very ominous time. Right, so Gemara says, again, we're not talking about normal people here. We're talking about great, great spiritual individuals. How could they make such a mistake? How could they make such a mistake? And not only that, God says, oh, you're crying for nothing because I can do anything. I can wipe them out with my pinky. And you're crying about nothing. I'll give you what to cry about. I'll give you plenty what to cry about on that day. Right? On the 9th of Av. All I have to read is the keynotes. Those liturgical poems that wrench your hearts. See how these great rabbis got killed. Horrifically. Yeah, the 10 martyrs. But even without going into that, how'd they make that mistake? So take it a step further. Then you got Korach. Korach's not a fool. One of the ones that held the ark. Some people held the ark that weren't worthy, died. So he's not a fool. Who does he come after? Doesn't come after Moses. If he would have come after Moses, they would have killed him because Moses is the king. Right? You don't come out against the king, bro. He came out against the kahuna, against the priesthood, because he felt he should be the high priest. Moses gave Aaron the priesthood. It protects you, what we would call having connections. Very good thing. Your brother's the king. He made you the high priest. He says, I should be the high priest. I'm just as great as him. Says Mishpirkei Avos, right? Desire, honor, and jealousy will take a person out of this world. Jealousy, what do we learn from Korach? Korach was no dummy. Yeah. Made fun of Moshe Rabbeinu, made fun of Torah, jealousy killed him. So some of the commentaries there say, yes, literally, jealousy can kill a person. Literally. So how do you make that mistake? Right? It's a little bit different, but it's a similar idea. Korach wanted power. But then Moses was the king. Then Moses took them out of Egypt with, and all the miracles. And God says, you trust Moses, I speak to him face to face. So Moses' credibility is through God. You don't deny that, because if he would have come out against Moses, they would have killed him. You don't come out against the king. Oh, you want to come out against the high priest? That's a different issue. But you don't come out against the king. He's not a dummy. Right? Not going to be that type of rebel who'll get killed. But he took 250 great people with him. Right? Very good orator. But he took rabbinic scholars with him. Down in that pit, they went with him. How could he convince them? Right? What's the common denominator here? What's the very simple common denominator? The Jews get sent into the desert. Right? Nothing in the houses to eat. All we get is mud. Doesn't matter what it tastes like. We missed we missed the fish. We missed the watermelon. Very good. The spies? They don't think God can take care of business? So what's the common denominator? Common denominator is they felt they weren't on the level. It's a very high level to be on. Imagine. You have no food in the house, there's nothing. Traveling every day. Right? Or however much you're traveling. And God says, and Moses says, don't worry. God's going to take care of your needs with his manna every day. Every family's going to get what they need. Got bigger families, will get more. You have, less people in your family, you get less. But everyone's going to get every single day. Now, are they going to question what Moses said? No. Because it's been right every time. Okay. But then they start to think, the stomach's starting to grumble a little bit after they eat. If they have stuff a little bit left over, they'll eat in the afternoon, very good. Still, maybe, stomach grumbles a little bit. Where are all the oases out here? God's working on their emunah. Now, they either felt we're not on the level, some sort of lack of emunah, that they weren't on the level to do that, because if they would have been, what was God preparing them for? God 100% is preparing them to go into the promised land. But in order to go into the promised land, their level of emunah has to be very high. Now, at this point, why wasn't it high enough? You can ask that question. They came out of Egypt. 100% they came out of Egypt. Yeah. They only had 20%, 80% died. So 20% that came out and they went to Mount Sinai. No matter, 2 million people, 3 million people that came to Mount Sinai. They saw God face to face at Mount Sinai. Right? Whatever that means. They had to be at a high level of emunah. Because otherwise they wouldn't have got out. They never would have got out if they didn't have that level. God's building them, building them, building them. And he's still working on them. Right? Remember, before they came out of Egypt, God tells Moses, okay, I got one other thing that the Jewish people have to do in order to get out. Save the best for last. He goes, okay, what's that? What's that? He says, you got to take a sheep. You got to kill the sheep in front of them, and that's their God. You have to kill their God in front of them and take the blood and put it on your doorpost. And put it on your doorpost. Because then God's going to pass over, get it? Killing the firstborn. God's going to pass over the Jewish house. Whoever put blood there, firstborn's not going to die there, and every other house, God's going to differentiate. They looked at Moses, everything we've been through. Everything we've been through. You're off your cotton picking head. You got to be kidding me. How in the world are we going to kill their God in front of their face? And get out alive. So imagine someone goes to India. Yeah, we're making burgers. Let's take all these cows that they worship. We're going to make burgers. Good luck. Yeah. And is it worth to die for a burger? Maybe. Depends on what it is and what's got in it. Yeah. They looked at him and said, you got to be crazy. How in the world are we going to be able to do that? Moses says, this is what God says. This is the final thing you have to do to get out. Now, what would we all say in such a case? What would we all say? I think we would all say, because of all the miracles that they saw, they should have been ready to go out right then. Without going through this. Right? And what's God thinking? Yeah, they probably could have. Probably could have taken them out. They were on the level, the 20% that when it was going out. But I wanted to make them even stronger. I wanted their emunah, their belief in me and faith and how I run the world. I wanted to be so strong, it's ironclad. They're never going to go away from me. Doesn't he know the thoughts of man, and thoughts of men are always bad from the beginning. Very good. You need Torah to, override that. Very good. God wanted to make them strong as fire, even stronger. But I'll go on record and say, couldn't God have taken them out if they didn't do it? Yes. Now, at some level, God thought that they needed this. They needed this extra strength in order to get out. That was the final test. And it could be. It could be that final test, God saying, if they don't do it, they don't get out. They will not get out because they won't be at the level I want them to be at. It's a mind-boggling thing. Right? They're not at that level. He's trying to make them stronger. Right? But again, that's in God's mind. Right? I'm just ad-libbing there because that's what I think he would say. Now, we're going to look at it from a little bit different perspective. Take Abraham. Abraham goes through all these trials, 9 for 9. Abraham has a legacy. He's got an unbelievable legacy. Then God tells him, I want you to bring up Isaac. The one that you love. Right? Your son. So I have 2 sons, right? The Medrash says. The one that you love. I love both of my sons. The one who's special to you. Yeah, he knows it's Isaac. Now, technically, you could say, well, it just means to bring him up. Doesn't necessarily mean to sacrifice him. We know he didn't sacrifice him. Right? Simple explanation. I had these Mormons tell me, yeah, human sacrifice. I go, where do you see that? These Mormons, came to my house when I was in Chile in South America. Second biggest group of Mormons outside of Salt Lake City, Utah, happens to be in Santiago, Chile. I'm not exactly sure how they got there. So I asked them, they're talking about human sacrifice. I said, where did you see human sacrifice? Where did you see human sacrifice in the Torah? It's the binding of Isaac. I said, great story. I said, one problem. Did you ever read the end? Read the end according to your version. Does he die? Doesn't die. No, but it's a hint that it's this. He doesn't die. I said, let's go to the book of Numbers. We're going to talk about Molech. Right? Molech is idolatry. It's idolatrous practice. What they do. 2 opinions, according to the Gemara and Sanhedrin. Right? One opinion is they had children walk over fire in front of it. That's one opinion. I told them the second opinion. They threw him in the fire. That's the second opinion. Human sacrifice. Yeah? And what does the Torah over there say? The Torah says human sacrifice an abomination. How could JC come and die for our sins? Abomination. Right? No such thing as human sacrifice. Oh, that's a great question. I said, great. What's the great answer? Yeah, they didn't have an answer. Right? And I asked them one other thing, they didn't have an answer. So I said, listen, you keep asking me questions, you know. I said, I keep asking you things. Sorry, you don't give me an answer. I said, I want an answer. Right? Then they came up with this great idea, John Smith, and they found this Book of Mormon, 200 years. I'm like, come on, you read Exodus 19. God spoke to the entire Jewish nation, right? Which no other so-called religion makes such a claim. Any case, so I have all that. I have all that. So what are they lacking here? Oh, sorry. So Abraham, what's the final test? Right? That's like lost track here. Abraham, what's his final test? His final test is find of Isaac. Now, if he's 9 for 9, he passes all these other tests with flying colors. He's great among the nations. Everyone acknowledges who he is. So I would say, again, is what I would say. Why does he have to go to the final trial? Why does he have to take Isaac and bring him up? So you say God commanded him. It was a test. You're right. If God knows the thoughts of man, so give him credit. He knows what he's going to do. His legacy is already certified. He's already got a legacy. Yeah, but you go down to one of the greatest people in the history of man. So I would say cut him some slack. Don't make him go through it. Give him credit as if he did it. What's the problem? Unreached potential is unreached potential. So the commentaries say he had to go through it. He had to certify his legacy. I would beg to differ. What do you mean? His legacy is already there. His legacy is there. If his legacy is there, well, they have to certify. His legacy is intact. Even if he didn't do this. Even if he didn't bring Isaac up, his legacy is still there. He would still be as great as he was. Comes on the commentaries and say no. Why not? Because it's a Talmudic dictum. And that is unreached potential is unreached potential. Doesn't matter what you think in your hearts. Because Devarim shebalev eino Devarim. Words of my heart mean nothing. Judaism is about action. He has a lot of philosophy of what's going on. We've spoken about that right for the last almost hour, last 15 minutes about, philosophical things or whatever. But Judaism is all about action. It's about what I do. It's not about what I think. There are certain things. If a person, I'll give an example. A person decides they want to do a mitzvah, but they don't do it. Yeah? They get credit if they did it because they had the thought they wanted to do it. But if they started the mitzvah, they don't finish it, you bury your wife and your kids in the process. What's the difference? Big difference. If a person thought to do the mitzvah and started yet, so the heart's in the right direction. So you get credit if you did it. Okay. But if I already started the mitzvah, I'm in the middle of doing the mitzvah, but I don't finish it, why is the punishment so harsh? What's the answer? The answer is because you're saying it's not that important to you to finish. God can wait. This thing can wait. I'm not talking about where there's onus, where a person had no choice, right? It was against his will, so to speak. We're not talking about that. We're talking about an opportunity to do it, and you get sidetracked. Now, you could say, well, isn't it possible? Isn't it possible a person can get sidetracked? Absolutely. But you're given a divine command. Right? You're given a command to do X, Y, or Z, whatever it is. You're given that command and you dilly-dally, whatever, you don't finish it. You started it. If you want to tell me you didn't start it, good, I'll cut you a lot of slack. Because if you didn't start it, You get credit if you did it. Okay, that I can hear. Right? But if you start it and you don't finish, now it depends why you didn't finish it. Yeah, again, if it's something against your will that you were not in control of, right? Your onus, I get it. It's not your fault. But when the onus goes away, you got to finish it. It's as if to say, God's not so important to me. That's so important. Yeah, I'll get to it. Right? Anyone that has kids, we understand that. Can you go pick this up off the floor? Yeah, I'll get to it. I didn't ask you to get to it. I asked you to pick it off the floor. Or I asked you to clean your room or bring this to the table or whatever. Not saying like you're a slave driver here. Right? I heard a great rabbi once say, it's like, a person's kids will say, yeah, I'm coming. No, come. Don't tell me you're coming. Come. Do what I asked you to do. Don't you feel like doing it? So like, wow, the 5-year option renew. Yeah, Dad, thank you very much. I'll get to it when I get to it. What does that mean? What does that show? Either they're lazy, probably, showing disrespect, right? For honoring a parent, right? A lot of things here. Or you can tell me, no, they're just in the middle of something. They want to do it when they want to do it. Okay. But still showing disrespect. It's not a question of, I'll get to it. Someone asks you to do something, you do it. You don't push it off. They'll get to it in 10 minutes. They ask you to do it now. Right? It was kind of catch-22 because if you know your kid's not going to do it, then you're putting your stumbling block in front of them. But you got to educate them. You got to educate. Just because you might know they're lazy and not going to do it straight away, and they don't do it, and that's going to get you angry, and you're going to yell at them. Well, you shouldn't yell at them, right? But they're transgressing here. Again, there's a whole discussion, if a parent asks them to do something unreasonable. If it's unreasonable, you don't have to listen to them. If it goes against Torah, right? I don't really want to go into this topic, but if it goes against Torah, you don't listen to them. Right? How do I know? Because what does the Torah tell me? Exodus chapter 20. Torah tells me there's a mitzvah to keep Shabbos. And the mitzvah before that is what? Is to honor your parents. Right? So what's the connection? Connection is, if a parent will tell you that's great Shabbos, you don't listen to them. There's a mitzvah not to listen to them. Yeah, you got an obligation not to listen to them. They got to be respectful. But there's a mitzvah not to listen to them. Now, someone once told me, they had a parent saying, but doesn't the Bible, or call the Torah, doesn't the Torah say you have to honor parents? Yes. There's even difference of opinion if a parent is evil, whether you have to honor them or not. Yeah? Difference of opinion between the Torah and the Rambam, whether you have to honor a parent if they're evil. Yeah? Respect. If a parent is evil, let's say they're evil. Can I totally disrespect them in public, even if they deserve it? I don't have to. Now, you can tell me they desecrate Shabbos in public, they have status of a non-Jew, right? Even so, even if they have the status of a non-Jew, it gives me the right to embarrass them in public. Aren't they created in, God's image? If they're evil, right? I got this discussion last night, right? In Pirkei Avos. Yeah. So it depends what level here. Depends. If whatever, without going into it, there's a whole discussion here, right? Even if a parent is evil, honor I might not have to. Honor means they walk into a room, stand up for them at least once a day. Yeah. Honoring I probably don't have to. Can I contradict them? They're evil, right? So again, direct contradiction, not allowed to. First, if a parent wants you to do something that goes against the Torah, so you tell them, well, I think the Torah says like this, or I think the Bible says like this, or whatever. Now, you're contradicting them, but you're doing it a different way. They're going to figure out that when you say that they're wrong. 100%, they'll figure that out. But you can't say directly you're wrong. That's disrespectful. Right? So again, even if they're evil, this is a hard mitzvah. This is a very hard mitzvah to do. Because they can blaspheme against God and this and that. So you say, but Torah says you got to rebuke. Yeah, am I allowed to curse a parent? Not allowed to curse? Not they, not allowed to. One of the rabbis in the Gemara says, right? So it's probably the hardest mitzvah to do. There's a story, a person's mother slapped him and took his purse and threw it in the river. She got angry, whatever, or I don't know, she wasn't well, whatever it was. Threw his main belongings in the river, never to be seen again. You're gonna blaspheme against your mother? Hey, you stupid! Yeah, a person will say, of course. How could you do that? That's so, you gotta be careful. Even in such a case. So a person's gotta say, come on, that's what the Torah says. That's what the Torah wants. Torah has high standards. Parent brought you into this world. Are there bad parents out there? Yes. Do they ruin their kids? Yes. Right? Again, honoring them? Probably don't have to, if they're evil. Right? Respect can't, it's very hard. You can't come out directly and contradict them. You got to show some level of respect. Now, what if parents are an alcoholic and violent? So you have a right to defend yourself. 100%. You have a right to defend yourself. But Torah says you can't make a wound, especially in a parent. So the whole question, a person is a dentist. Let's say a person's a dentist. You have to fix the parent's tooth and cause them to bleed. The whole question, if they're allowed to. They're allowed to do it. They're healing them, they're helping them. Yeah, very good. But they're still making a wound. So if I remember correctly, the halacha is that if a parent's a dentist, you can't do it for them unless there's no one else to do it. Or the parent says, I don't want to come to you. Not allowed to do it. Right? That's making a wound. It's to their benefit. Or wait, even better. What if the person was a surgeon? Best surgeon in the field of, whatever. Whatever the field is, and that parent needs that surgery. So if he's the best in the field, he can do it. Seemingly he could do it. It's probably better he finds someone else to do it, but if he's the only one that can do it, okay. But if you can find someone else to do it, you find someone else to do it. That's how far it goes. Either you're saving their lives. Right? But again, if this person is the expert, in this surgery, whatever it may be, so then you go to him. Either he's going to make a wound, doesn't matter. That'll supersede it because he's the expert. If there are other people, they should really send to someone else. That's more complex. But that's even saving a life. Right? If it's a case where, let's say a person, I don't know, something happens, and the only way the person knows is an EMT. Yeah, it gets there, a parent, passed out or whatever, or had a heart attack, right? So, they're working on them, whatever, doing CPR and whatnot. Nothing's working, right? No pulse, no nothing, right? So what do? You gotta get this defibrillator, right? A nasty thing, but generates spark in the heart. You see the body jump up or whatever. Yeah, it's causing all kinds of issues. Well, listen, you got no choice. Saving the person's life, different issue. Saving a life is a totally different issue. But again, in that case, no one else around, shouldn't be an issue. But at the end of the day, in any of these cases, someone else could do it. It's better. Because then they come, transgress this, making a wound. But a person would say, wouldn't the parent want them to do it? No matter what the parent wants. The question is it permissible according to Torah? That's the question, right? That is going to be the question here. Can a person do it? Are they allowed? Right? Are they allowed to do it? So that's a good question. That's a good question. When it comes to respect and honor, again, we would say someone is evil. Honor, you probably don't have to. right? If they're still alive, certain level of respect. And probably in this case, the relationship is toxic. You don't have so much of a connection. And again, if they, what happens if they attack you? You're allowed to fight back. Even if you make a wound, you're allowed to fight back, right? You don't just you're not there to be docile, so to speak. Just sit there and take it. You don't have to. You're allowed to fight back. Yeah, that'll be like the last time you have any contact. If they attack you, whatever. But you have a right to. Right, so that's not an issue. Anyway, point is, I digressed here a lot, but the point with all this is how to get onto this, because Or Chaim HaKadosh says we're talking about being spiritually cut off. It's only by the individual. It's only about the individual. It's not about everybody, right? It's not about the entire community. But in all these things that the Jewish people go through, in all these things that they go through, what's God working on in the desert? He's working on their faith and belief in Him, and that He runs the world. Even if He took them out to a desert, they just couldn't imagine. Like, Moses, great. You brought us to a desert, no oasis. How are we going to live? Right? They complain. Well, He brought us out to die. So a person can look at this in a very depressed way and can say, well, this is the generation that came out of Egypt and the generation that saw God face to face at Mount Sinai. Probably the greatest generation in the history of man. And you see they're lacking faith at some level. Right? So someone can make a very simple conclusion. And the simple conclusion is, if we're going to say that about them and look at how they failed, what's going to be with us? What's going to be with us? We're, thousands of years later, much weaker spiritually. So where's our faith going to be? How are we going to be able to navigate the day in and day out of everything we go through? Whatever it may be. It's going to be a lot harder. Because if it was hard for them at their level, yeah, for us, we're living in a world of Hester B'toch Hester Panim. We're living in a world with God's hiddenness within hiddenness. So if that's the case, isn't it going to be a lot harder? They saw God face to face. They saw open miracles. We don't have open miracles today, per se. The last open miracle we know is the story of Hanukkah. So you can say there are different things people say are open miracles. Open miracles are that we see God clearly. Yeah, and His presence is felt. Because today, even if we want to say they're open miracles, and open miracles have been done, we still don't feel His presence. Because we're still living in a world of hiddenness. You can feel His presence to a small extent. But in the bigger scheme of things in the world, we don't. That's why we say it's no open miracle. Even though some people will say, right, and I've heard it argued, 6-Day War is an open miracle. That was an open miracle. Getting the land of Israel is an open miracle. 1948. Again, how are we defining miracle here? Miracle is seeing God's presence, feeling His presence. Feeling His presence means you're surrounded by it. Not that, it's done through nature. Yeah. There are a lot of things in the 6-Day War, for example, people cannot, military strategists will never understand. They will never understand. Why won't they understand it? Very simple. They won't understand it. Because it doesn't make sense. Why did they flee? Right? Why did the Egyptians flee? Yeah, many things. Many things they can't answer. Okay? Yeah, they can't answer. So what are they going to say? What are they going to say? They can only say one thing. We have no answers. They're going to claim it's God, maybe a different issue. But they're not going to have, any answers. Now, for it to be an open miracle, everyone has to agree it's an open miracle. Israelis are going to say, some of them are definitely going to say it's what we did, it's our strategy was this. But even they don't, they don't have answers either. Right? But again, it's going to be miracle within nature. When you have miracle within nature, right, it makes the miracle look smaller. makes the miracle look a lot smaller, right? Because it's hidden, right? It's within this hiddenness, right? So to speak. So if it's within the hiddenness, you don't see it. You don't see it as more as direct. Now you could say, as well, what happened a few weeks back, 300 missiles and drones sent, in two systems that have been used together, knock them all out. Right? So even the military strategists saying they could have only knocked out maybe 100, maybe a third. They knocked them all out. They're pretty miraculous. Yeah, but again, someone could say that's an open miracle. But that miracle is done within hiddenness. It's done within nature. You got to say the Patriots knocked it out. You got Jordan knocking them out. You got the Americans, whatever. Right? But they're saying you had two systems that never worked together and knocked them out. It's not rational at all. But to get everyone, why isn't everyone screaming all over the world open miracle? Because they don't see it that way. As I mentioned last night for me, right? That's, two people can see the same thing. And one person will see it as something, as being from God, and someone else will see it differently. We'll see it according to nature. Two people can see the same thing and come to two very different conclusions. But open miracle is a specific definition. Open miracle means it's clear. God's hand is there. And everybody sees it's clear. You don't have that. Again, the last open miracle was by what happened by Hanukkah. That was clear according to everybody. Everything else after that, even if it looks like a miracle, can be explained through nature. Once you explain it through nature, you take God right out of it. Right? So with all this and with collective punishment, the whole point of what went on in the desert, or one of the main points, is that God was squeezing them for the sake of emunah, belief in Him and faith in Him and how He runs the world. They should have gone straight to paradise, straight to the Garden of Eden, straight to the land of Israel. Creation's finished. Mr. S gets destroyed. Messiah comes. That's it. But obviously it didn't happen like that. So even the greatest generation in history of man also lacking something. Some level of emunah. It's very hard to understand. Very, very hard to understand on their level because of everything they saw. So simply you can say by Korach, and others, even by the mixed multitude that caused the sin of the golden calf, what happens? They didn't internalize the message. Even if they saw the miracles in Egypt, even if they saw the miracles of Mount Sinai, the miracle itself was not entrenched enough for them to get over the hump of having more emunah. They failed at some level. It's very hard to understand superficially. How can a person be the same if they saw open miracles? Someone came to the Brisker Rav, just while I'm on this topic, someone came to the Brisker Rav many years ago from America, and he said, if there were more open miracles, right, if God would do more open miracles, a lot more people would be religious. So the Brisker Rav said no. He said, I beg to differ. Why? Says the Brisker Rav, I beg to differ for one very simple reason. In order to see miracles, your eyes have to be open. You got to be a vessel. You got to be a vessel to be able to see. If you're not a vessel to be able to see, when you see 39 Scud missiles and they hit nothing, they don't hit any buildings, or 300 missiles and drones and they get knocked out, and you say, oh yeah, exponential, we can figure that out. What the odds of that? They're not a vessel to see. They won't be able to see, says the Brisker Rav. If God opened their eyes and showed them, they won't see it. Why not? Because they're not holding. Some people would open their eyes, maybe. He's saying, but they have to be holding somewhere in the world, spiritually. They don't have to be the highest level. They have to be holding somewhere to be able to take it. Right? To be able to, let's say better, to absorb it. And once they absorb it, it's a different thing. Then that's a whole different thing. But if they're not on the level to absorb it, ain't going to happen. Not going to happen. God can show them open miracles. They don't see it. Or they don't want to see it. Going to be holding somewhere. Yeah. Anyway, a lot of questions here. Let me deal with some of them. See how far we get with them. Somebody here asks, let's go back to the beginning here. Here it says, why does it say Mikerev Amma? Okay, I haven't got there yet. It says amongst your people, his people. Right? Right? Literally his people. Right? Oh, they translated here. I think the same way. Among his people. Right? It says among his people. Right? Will it still be her people? Why not? God's people are always his people. That doesn't change. How many people are going to be left? At the end, talk about, when the Messiah comes, different issue, right? God's people doesn't change. Who survives at the end, that's a different issue. If, let's say, person goes against Rambam's 13 principles, unless you repent, you lose your status as a Jew, if you're Jewish. Non-Jew doesn't necessarily have to believe in that, to believe in one God, right? They don't necessarily have to believe in divine providence. Good thing for them to believe in it, but they don't necessarily have to. Not one of the no-idol laws, right? But yeah, we're still gonna be his people. So, so it's brought down. The prophets say, who's gonna be left at the end? The remnant. What does a remnant mean? Relatively small amount. So if you have, 14, 15 million Jews in the world today, how many would call themselves Orthodox? Maybe 1 million, let's say, 10%. Less than 10%. What's going to happen to the other 13.5 million? 14.5 million. They don't repent, they're going to get obliterated. That's what's going to happen. If they're into marriage, forget it. They're toast. So it's still going to be his people. The Christians say we're not chosen anymore. Muslims say they're not chosen. We're not chosen. We made Yishmael look bad and all that. We're still his people. We're still an Am Kedosh's Kohen. We're still a holy people, nation of priests. That never changes. That covenant never changes. So amongst his people is going to be his people, whether they're close or not. The ones who aren't so close, very good. What's going to happen to them? What's going to happen to them if they don't repent? They're in trouble. They are in serious trouble. And there are people that think they're close. They're probably not so close. Or just, listen to someone speak today. You got people that, Orthodox Jews go through the motions, but deep down they're thinking other things. I heard a story, crazy story, where you had a girl, grew up religious. I guess grew up religious. It's in a seminary, for girls here. And it comes out that she converted to Christianity. Yeah, actually seemingly, practicing Christian, right? But obviously, she's in the school, dressed like an Orthodox Jew, but practicing Christianity seemingly, right? So what was the point this person was making? The point was, a person can look the look, walk the walk, and talk the talk, but they're empty inside. Very well could be empty on the inside. You don't know. I mean, this is like an extreme example. This is not common. This is, they're talking about, different issues with boys and girls in this generation, right? Why, struggling with Judaism, and with different reasons, different causes, possibly this and that. So, person told this story. They told this story about a girl, right? Now, is that common? No, right? Not common at all. But you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on inside. So a lot of people that could supposedly look the way they should, they say all the right things, but deep down there's nothing. Right? They're nowhere. someone asked, did any of those Mormons consider converting in Judaism? No. The Mormons that came to me were, I would say they weren't the brightest of guys that I ever met. They knew how to repeat things, but it didn't seem like they knew a whole lot. But, I asked them a bunch of questions they didn't have answers to, and they said, we'll come back with answers. Yeah, never heard from them. Yeah. So, did they consider converting? I don't think so. It's like, wow, very interesting questions. You got Christians that think a lot of things are interesting questions, contradictions, they don't change. Why not? Why not? Because God makes them, their God makes them afraid, so to speak. Believe in JC, fry now forever. That's the last thing. That is the last straw for them. They have to really take him and put him in the garbage. Right? If they're not willing to put JC in the garbage, yeah, it's a problem. Because they're afraid maybe it's true. Maybe what he says is true. But they don't care about mistranslations. They don't care about misinterpretations. They still think they're right and whatever. Historical inaccuracies. Doesn't bother them. It doesn't bother them. I asked these Mormons a bunch of questions. They didn't have answers. But it didn't bother them. They didn't all of a sudden have a crisis of faith. I don't know what happened afterward, but it didn't seem like it. Because most people, it's not about the truth. You don't think the higher ups in the church, make fun of the church here, you don't think the higher ups in the church know it's a bunch of bull? It's a bunch of malarkey? I'm sure they do. But they're just, going through the motions. They probably know it's not true. A lot of them. Or they do other things, work on their faith and who knows what. But yeah, because if you're a thinking person, this makes no sense. A lot of reasons. And again, it's not the point here, right? But a lot of reasons doesn't make sense. But they don't have answers. They know they don't have answers. Most people I come in contact with have been thrown out of the church for exactly this reason. You got to have faith. You got to believe. You got to do all kinds of things. Work on yourself. This, that. No, give me an answer. That's not an answer. Give me a logical answer. How can this be? Yeah. Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7. It says over there, God created evil. They totally misinterpret it because according to their world outlook, who created evil? Mr. S, fallen angel. We don't believe in fallen angels, so it's a mistranslation. How do you have a mistranslation? That's not what the words mean. I saw when a 7-year-old woman was learning Hebrew, came to this, passage about immaculate conception, and she's like, but that's not what the word means. Yeah, she left everything. She found one contradiction, major contradiction, right? Or sorry, mistranslation. That was it. But how many people are going to come to that? Not so many. Because they keep them ignorant. That's the whole point. They keep them ignorant and afraid. Because anyone who's thinking is going to come to a conclusion this doesn't make sense. And I come in contact with people all the time like that. Doesn't make sense. There aren't answers. And they know they don't have answers. So they're going to try and convince you not to question, which is just the opposite of Judaism. We want questions. We love questions. It's all about getting to the truth. Very good. Yeah, they're not interested in truth. They don't want, they'll tell you have the truth and you're going to believe in them and this and that. But contradictions all over the place. I spoke to someone last week, right? That's, I don't know if they're a true Christian, or not. I brought up a bunch of things like, well, it's a good point. Another interesting point. See where they go in their journey. But, they weren't so solidified in their beliefs. So like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, this doesn't make sense. It's like, investigate. I said most of them want fantasy. They don't want reality. But they know they don't have it. They know truth they don't have. Right? But it's very good. Very good to keep everyone afraid. Because to keep everybody afraid, it's going to keep them in line. Right? So that's what I would answer to that. And why does it say nefesh and not neshama? Yeah. Because here the Torah says, Ish mi beis Yisrael, yeah, mipnei ben, panai ben nefesh. The nefesh doesn't have to say neshama, right? Doesn't need to say, nefesh is part of the neshama, right? Different parts of the different aspects of the soul. The nefesh is the lowest part of the soul, right? As far as I understand, that keeps a person alive. In other words, if you didn't have a certain amount of blood or whatever, then you don't have that connection between the blood and the nefesh that's keeping you alive, you die. Right? So here we could say that when it says nefesh and not neshama, because the nefesh is what keeps the person alive. The nefesh is the closest thing to the blood, right? That part of the soul is where the blood is, right? Essentially. So basically, you take out the nefesh, the person dies, right? The person dies, but it's the connection between what a person eats and how they survive, right? That everything goes into the blood, and what's keeping the person alive and everything going is the fact that the nefesh is attached, right? Remember, you got the other parts of the soul is going to be attached to God, and when God snaps that or whatever, then that soul goes out. That soul goes out. So the nefesh is the lowest part of the soul that is going to keep the person alive through the blood, right? That's the reason. The neshama is the highest part of the soul, by the way. Somebody asks, I was reading about Shulchan Aruch, Code of Jewish Law, about behavior, but I couldn't find an answer to this question. Okay. Let's see if I have an answer here. If someone insults someone's Torah observance, is there a specific sin? For example, someone is just being cruel, or just just out of anger. Like, it's no good of you reading Torah or praying. Yes. Or listening to the rabbis is not, you're no good, right? Abusive person. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the prohibition is scoffing, mocking at Torah. That's where it come out. Lo son. I don't know how to make fun. I don't know how to make fun of somebody for what they do. Whether it's in their action, whether it's what they believe, so to speak. I mean, in spiritual terms. A Jew shouldn't do that to another Jew, for sure. Right? If the person is spewing out courses in heresy, then, that doesn't apply. That for sure doesn't apply. Right? Then you can say whatever you want. Right? But if someone, question is, does this really apply to a non-Jew? Well, let's say it's a Jew. Right? Let's say it's a Jew, because I've heard this many times, where a person will say, look at all your prayers. Look at everything you've done. You got nothing. See, we believe in JC. Everything's good. Yeah, they know how the world works. We're going to have the last laugh over here, so to speak. Or someone will say, look, you change your life and all these different things happen that are bad, or look bad. Yeah. Like someone once told me, they said, well, when I die, I'm going 6 feet under. I said, I hope you're right. Because if I'm right, you're in trouble. So the person asked me, they said, what would happen if you find out, you die like a dog, as I would say. Poof, nothing happens. You just lie there, nothing happens. No next one. I said, let's say that would be the case, which I don't think so, but let's say that would be the case. Okay. So I would say, and I did say, there's no greater way to live a person's life than through Torah mitzvahs. Even if there's no reward at all. Even if when a person, God forbid, dies, nothing happens. There's no spiritual world, there's no reward, there's no nothing. That's my answer. I said there's no greater way to live a moral life. Either person's going to say it's hard and, it's an expensive life and different things and wherever. Okay? Right? What would you rather have? Fantasy? Yes. I'd rather have fantasy. Okay? They just want to live and do whatever they want. Right? Right? But there's a Torah prohibition. There's a Torah prohibition. There's a little soda. You're not allowed to scoff. You're not allowed to make fun. Certainly someone's beliefs, unless they're a heretic. Right? Right? That could be blaspheme against God without using God's name. There's a lot of potential prohibitions here. King Solomon says, in Proverbs, don't hang out with a scoffer lest you become like him. So scoffing in general and making fun and making light, everybody does it in the secular world, no question about it. Everybody does it, belittles other people, different things. That's part of the world. That's part of everyday life, yeah? Torah says that's forbidden. Forbidden to make fun of, make fun of someone else. That's the whole thing about Lashon Hara. Person speaks badly against someone else. You don't have anything in your hand. If you stole something from somebody, very good. I got it in my hand, right? Or someone has it in their hand, right? If you speak Lashon Hara, you speak badly against someone else, you're always speaking badly against someone else to make you yourself look better. Is that something tangible? No. It's not something tangible. It's not something I have right now. It's not like I have $100 in my hand. You don't have it. You for sure don't have it, right? But what do you have? You have the fact that you belittled someone, you made fun of somebody, right, at their expense, even if you didn't do it in front of them, even if that, even that person's not there, even if you would say, I would say it in front of them, doesn't matter, right? Lashon Hara is based on a lie, right? It's usually based on a lie, but Lashon Hara can even be if it's true. So Lashon Hara we understand, right? Scoffing and mocking and come under a number of prohibitions. Again, one of the main ones, is, reminding people where they came from. That's Torah prohibition. Can't say, I remember you used to eat shrimp. That comes under this prohibition. Right? You're reminding someone of their past. Right? You say, I remember you before you were Jewish. That's Torah prohibition. That is a Torah prohibition. So this would come under that context. Right? Comes under that context. Oh, come on, you really think Torah's true? You really think God's gonna beat you down if you eat a ham sandwich? That's the prohibition comes under. Talking to everyone, I was recently looking into the Israeli flag. Okay, some people, rabbis, Jews included, made the claim 6-sided star has nothing to do with Torah and King David, or it's even pagan. Others say it's symbol for King David's shield. Yeah, I think that's the main way to look at it. Is that it's main thing of a shield. Not that it's pagan. I don't think we necessarily look at it as being pagan. Right. I think it's more looked at that it's considered a like the shield. I don't think we look at it as something pagan. Could some people look at it? I guess. I don't think we look at it that way. Yeah, we don't look at it that way. Also heard from others that it protects people from demons. I don't know. Like I said, demons we don't have contact with. Right? Some say the power has been totally diminished today. So what they do or where they are doesn't have any effect on us. None. Right? Time of the Gemara, they had power. They had real power. And if you were around them, you get injured. Hang out in certain places. Today, it doesn't matter. Today it doesn't matter at all. I see there's a lot of people worried about these things. There are so many other things worthwhile to worry about. These things don't matter. I wouldn't take them too seriously in any case. Right? What's the bottom line? You know that they're part human and they're part angel. Right? The part human, they eat, they drink, they have children. And they're part angel. They fly around, they do other things. Like angels. Very good. We have any contact with them? No. Do they have anything else in our lives to do with? No. So what's the point? I've heard people say, oh, worried about this, worried about that. More important things to worry about. Many, many more important things, right, to worry about. And people can, waste a lot of time, trying to look this stuff up and whatever. A lot of this stuff very much steeped in Kabbalah. So again, I wouldn't waste your time on it. I definitely wouldn't waste time on it. Yeah, other questions. This is where we're falling angels based on an event where angels did become human. Again, those are in the feeling. Those are in the feeling. The feeling means to fall. Literally means to fall. They were angels put in a human body. Because they claimed if we were down on that earth, we wouldn't sin. Now, there's a whole question how that works over here. Because if they're an angel, right, angels don't have free will. But what happens when an angel goes into a body? So this is a good question. Yeah. Does the body overtake the angel, so to speak? Does it overtake the angels, and now the angel is more human and less angelic, so to speak? That would seem to be the case. God's going to say, if I put you in a human body, you'd also sin. And they're like, no, never happened. God, okay. So you get the story and the feeling. Right? This question comes up a lot. Yeah. But they're in a human body, right? So I'll ask you the question. Right? I'll answer the question with a question. If an angel's in a human body, are they an angel or are they human? Which came first, chicken or the egg? Right? Are they human? They're human. Don't they remember they're an angel? Maybe they do. Right? But the human body overcomes them. So they have desire like a human would. So even if they're angelic in whatever way, the fact that they're trapped in the body, they're in trouble. God made a point. God's going to say, if I were to put you in a human body, you'd also sin. You're saying man should never been created. You wasted your time, God, on making man. Should just give the Torah to us, blah, blah, blah. Why even bother giving the Torah to this world? Leave the Torah up in heaven. You guys so special? You guys are programmed spiritual beings. I created you. Very good. So if I created you and I put you in a body, what's going to happen? Oh, we wouldn't sin? Really? You wouldn't sin? You don't think so, God says? All right, let me show you. Let me show you. Puts them in a human body overcomes them, and they sinned. God made the point. Right? Yeah, they made a challenge. Did they fail the challenge? Yes. They failed the challenge. Right? So, because they were in humanistic form, they were in a human body. Yeah. What happens when the soul goes in the human body? They have a Yetzer Hara. Of course, when the Yetzer Hara comes, but okay, they have a Yetzer Hara. They have an evil inclination. The evil inclination can overcome the soul in many ways. Constant battle. We mentioned many times. Constant battle between body and soul till a person dies. Body wants you to go after physical things. So if you go after the body, you debase the soul. If you go after spiritual things, you elevate the body, you elevate the soul. Right? They made a mistake. So what you heard is right. They made a mistake. It was explaining how they made the mistake. Their mistake was, if we were there, even in a human body, we wouldn't sin. God says, really? Okay, I'll take your challenge. He puts them in human bodies. They fail. Right? That was the point. That was the point. Right? But people make the mistake that, see, fallen angel. They're human. To be a fallen angel, quote unquote, you'd have to live in this world, and do whatever and have no connection to God whatsoever. In other words, you're an independent, right? You're total independent. All the sources say there's no such thing. They don't have independent power. We said that at the beginning. They can never have independent power. God created them. Yeah. If God created them, that means they're subservient to Him. Everything is subservient to God. If they're all subservient to God, they can't do whatever they want. By definition. Now, can God give them power? Sure. Can they take independent power for themselves? No. So there's no such thing. What about these angels? They're not. Why are they called fallen angels, so to speak? Because they fell. They sinned. Yeah. Because they were in a human body, not because they were fallen angels, that the soul itself, that the angel itself was a failure. It's not true. That for sure is not true. They don't have independent power. They can't do whatever they want. But the fact they were in a human body made them more human than angels. So therefore, the angel aspect of them got messed up in the human body, and the human body took on sin. Right? Now, does that mean they had independent power? They can do what they want? No. That's a whole different thing. But nobody has that. Nobody has that. Right? None of these beings have it except man. They don't have free will. They never had free will. They are dependent 100% on God, period. God's not dependent on anybody. Right? First of the 13 principles. Someone asked, in the area of coming of the Messiah, we're going to have man again. No. Who says? Rambam says not going to be any difference between this world and that world. right? Not going to be, not going to be any different. We'll be in some sort of body, right, by resurrection. Some say that I don't know what type of body it's going to be, right? But essentially, if you're in a body, so you're going to have some level of human needs, right? The miracles will be greater than Egypt's Prata. Though that the miracles will surpass the miracles happen in Egypt. Yeah, but we're not gonna be at that level. That it's all, if a person is in some sort of human form, yeah. If you're talking about the spiritual world and the whole discussion what this world looks like, there is a purely spiritual world, yeah. Yeah, then they don't need manna, they don't need anything because they're spiritual beings. So if they're a spiritual being, what happens? They don't need to eat or drink, right? They certainly don't need to eat and drink. The question is what that world looks like. Now it seems that by resurrection, so there are two different time periods here, potentially. Resurrection of the dead comes last. Whether it comes after the Messiah, before the world's destroyed, or after the world's destroyed. Right? That's the whole discussion. But up until that point, the Rambam says no difference. Right? So if a person's resurrected, his body and soul is going to be resurrected in some sort of body, whatever that body is. So if you go according to the Rambam, very good. If you go according to the Rambam, then we'll be no different. So we'll be eating, doing other things during that time. Right? Others say no. Others say we're going to be spiritual beings. Totally different thing. Totally different thing. It's going to be a totally different world than we understand. Right? So if a person's a spiritual being, you don't need to eat or drink. So that we wouldn't have to do. Yeah, let me see. 1 second. Yeah. Where people so addicted to idolatry because they could tangibly use the tumah, the impurity for witchcraft before the Eighth Zara had it. Ooh. Idolatry had a power, right? Forget about witchcraft and everything else. Nobody believed the idol itself could do anything. They didn't believe the idol had that power. It's what the idol represented. It's what the idea represented. That was the power, right? So you don't have to come in, you don't have to come on to witchcraft or other things. And we don't understand what this is. We have no idea. One of the rabbis asked, I think Achav saw him, came to him in a dream. It's like, and Achav's asking him all these great questions that he couldn't answer. So it's like, if you're so great, how'd you go after idolatry? How could you run after idolatry? So the Gemara says, if you would have been in my generation, you would have run after its coattails. That's how powerful it was. Today we don't, we really don't understand what this is. It's the idea, right? It's the difference between the one who has power and the one who wields power, right? Or the source of power, right? The one who's the source of power, I use this as an example in the 13 principles, right? One has the source of power. Let's say who's the source of power? Let's say in the army, right? It's the president, right? He's the president in chief, right? So he calls the shots with the army. Very good. Now, someone's low man totem pole in the army wants to have a free pass to go away for the weekend. Very good, right? Very good. Does it matter what the president says? No. President doesn't matter over here. Sergeant that matters. The reason the sergeant matters is because he's the one's calling the shots whether he gets a free pass to leave or not. So it's the difference of the source of power and the difference of wielding the power, right? So the source of power they all understood was God. They didn't have any doubt he was the source of power. Wielder of power could be, all these other beings, right? All these celestial beings or whatever. They could wield the power. And again, this has nothing to do with witchcraft, right? And sorcery is well before that, right? Well before that. The idea is, that I don't know why it's, I don't think necessarily the power behind it or the power trip someone would get, right? But I would say that, so God's not around. If God's not around and he's leaving these other powers in charge, so a person's worshiping them, so to speak. Right? In other words, these other things have, much, much loftier much loftier things or whatever, right? So, in this case, they're giving, the problem here is that you're giving power to something that doesn't have independent power. That's the problem. It doesn't have independent power, right? So therefore, the evil inclination can convince you, oh, star, the moon, this, that. You can feel like you're somewhere, by worshiping them or whatever. But again, I'm not sure. I'm not sure myself what exactly the pull of that, the pull of that is. If you want to say, you're going to say, you're going to use certain incantations and have power over angels and different things. That I can hear is power. That I can hear is enticing. The other thing about the fact that, it's not the source of power, but it can wield power and do other things. I don't know. I don't know if they see the strength. I don't know if they see the strength in that. Someone asks, back when I said before, some of my fault because I didn't finish the mitzvah for the reasons I cannot control. That's a different issue. I said that's a different issue. If you started the mitzvah, you're under onus. Onus means it's out of your control. If it's out of your control, it's one thing. If it's in your control, then you're punished. If it's out of your control, you're not punished. Right? That's what I would say. Yeah, if I have two positive commands given in one single verse. Okay. Doesn't usually mean the first one takes precedence over the second one. Right? Honor your parents, keep Shabbos. First of all, they're different verses, not the same verse. But even if they were in the same verse, I don't know, there's a hierarchy that, the one comes first takes precedent. I mean, we do interpret what we call smuchim, what do you call it? Verses that are juxtaposed, right? We're not saying that one's more important than the other, is what you learn out one from the other. Right? We can use an example, Exodus chapter 37, where we talk about Shabbos, and that the Torah says, further, and the Torah says before about the building of the tabernacle. So Rashi says, why does it mention Shabbos over here? Shabbos mentioned Exodus chapter 18, chapter 19, chapter 20. Other places, it seems out of place over here. Right? So what does Rashi and other commentaries say? Other commentaries say like this, that because the verses are juxtaposed, it must mean that everything that was done in the tabernacle does not supersede Shabbos. Right? It will not supersede Shabbos. Otherwise, what's it doing there? What's the verse there for? The verse is out of place. According to everybody, the verse should be out of place. Right? The question is, what's it doing there? Right? So again, it'd be separate verses. But if I would have them in the same verse, I mean the first one is more important than the second one. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say that. We do say by the 7 species the land of Israel is praised by it. Right? Figs, pomegranates, grapes, olives, dates, etc. That there, if I'm eating two things, which blessing do I make over first? If it's the same, if it's the same blessing, let's say it's break eight, make it easy. Yeah, so let's say it's two things. Let's say a fig and a date, right? What do I make the blessing on if it's the same blessing, right? So what's the answer? Which where it is in the verse. If the date comes before the fig, then I should make the blessing on the date first. If the fig comes first, if I eat figs, because I won't eat figs today because they're totally infested, but in general, if figs came first in the verse, then I would make the blessing on that. But again, that's only one verse. That's only one positive command. Right? It's only one command. If a person ate the fruits from the 7 species the land of Israel is praised by. That's only one mitzvah. 2 mitzvahs in the same verse? I don't know. I have to look into that. Look into that more. I'm not sure it would make a difference. In other words, to say that the fact that's mentioned first is more important. It could be. Could be if I had two separate positive commands in the same verse. Could be. Could be it shows more important, right? I'm not 100% sure that's the case. Could be, right? Let's do more research on that. According to Torah, if someone is frustrated to the point of losing control, let's say dealing with constant intentional wind-ups, abusive treatment, okay. The point of seeing red losing control to the frustration, are they held accountable? Of course they're held accountable. Torah says don't get angry. Right? Even let's say person being made fun of and and all these different things. Still got to be under control. Who said you're allowed to lose control? Try not to be in that situation. What if you are? Anger, one of the worst character traits a person can have. If you're using it against the other person, right? Even the Rambam says, if you have to discipline a child, and you have to, you really want to make a point, you got to show anger. He says you better figure out, if you're going to do that, you better figure out how to fake it to the best of your ability where it has no effect on you. None. Should have no effect on you. No middle path here. No effect. Because if it has an effect on you, then you just transgress, getting angry. Doesn't the child have to be disciplined? Sure. Right? King Solomon says in Proverbs, if you spare the rod, right, against a child, you get punished. Now, it doesn't mean corporal punishment here. It doesn't mean you're whacking your child around. You got to discipline them. If you don't discipline, you're liable. You're liable for neglect, essentially. Right? So we're going to control our emotions. You're going to say, but it's very hard. You're being wound up. People are saying all kinds of things, a negative thing. You're right. You're right. That gives you a right to get angry. Right? So we just answered the question. Right? Let me ask. I'll ask backwards. Why would you not be held accountable? Because the other person's causing it. So what? Right? A person makes fun of you and curses you out in different things. That gives you a right to get angry. Where's your emunah? Yeah? God's using this person to get to you as a stick. See if you're going to be in control. Oh, you lost control. Well, you failed. You failed the test. The other person winding you up. Very good. So what? What does that matter? They're just trying to get under your skin. They did a good job of it. Right? Because they have no right to get angry. One of the worst character traits you can ever have. That's the answer. So if they're winding you up, figure out a way to diffuse the situation. Or at least diffuse it in your own right. Doesn't mean you don't have to defend yourself. You might have to defend yourself, okay? But getting angry, it's one of the worst things a person can do. Say, well, under the circumstances. No. Why under the circumstances? Sticks and stones, person's mentally challenged. Someone who's mentally challenged saying all these things, you're going to get upset? What are you going to get upset for? Person got a screw loose. Maybe a few screws loose. And they say things and different things. Forget it. You move on. Oh, you're going to get angry and this and that. The person said something below the belt or whatever. Why would that be permissible? I'd like to hear an argument why that should be permissible. Yeah. Anger, one of the worst character traits anyone can have. At any level. Yeah. Are we perfect? No. But you're asking me, the causing frustration and anger and this and that. Okay. So, they're liable for other things. Doesn't give you a right to get angry. You don't have to get angry if they did it. Because at some level, you're lacking the moon. You got to think, come on, who's holding there? It doesn't matter. That's not the question. Question is, are you held accountable? And the answer is, you're held accountable. I'll tell you how far it goes. You're held accountable even what you think in your mind. So let's say you took a hammer, right? Smashed your hand with it. You didn't say every 4-letter word in the book. Very good. Very good. But you thought them. That's a different level. You're going to say, words in my heart don't mean anything. It's a different level. You held accountable for thinking those thoughts? If you overcome them, good. Yeah? There are different levels here. So even thinking them is a problem. Food for thought. Rambam says in his 60-day works of creation, you get to appreciate God's greatness, right? Ramil says it all the time. I agree. The Chovos Levavos, 100%. Right? So, okay. 8% Torah doesn't make sense. We mentioned that. You don't follow everything what makes sense for you. Again, if you're a non-Jew, in this world and you don't convert, or you're not interested in converting, you have to keep what's logical according to the Torah. 80% of the Torah we mentioned many times doesn't make sense. True. But whatever makes sense logically according to the Torah, non-Jew has to keep. Right? It's not a question of what makes sense to you. That's not the issue. It's what makes sense according to the Torah. Because there are plenty of things that we may say make sense. Someone says something to me, I have a right to say something back. That makes sense, logically. They said it to you, why can't you say it back? Yeah. Or, you wanted to borrow something from them, they wouldn't let you. Now they need to borrow something from you, you won't let them. Why? Because they didn't let you. Now, does that make sense? You don't worry they're going to ruin it or whatever. Why don't you want to give it to them? Because they didn't give it to you. That's bearing a grudge. That you can't do. That's forbidden. That 100% is forbidden. So what do you mean it makes sense? The question makes sense or not. It's not, only according to the Noahide laws, right? The Noahide laws that make sense, that are universal, very good, right? So you're saying that you don't follow anything that makes sense to you. True. But it's not a question what I follow, what I don't follow, right? And it has to make sense according to what the Noahide laws are, right? We have to keep eating what doesn't make sense. It's true, right? That 100% is true. Let's see, Prosecutor's theology of being a Christian, biblical text, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. All right. People believe in idolatry, they do whatever they want. Listen, if I'm a Christian, you go to confession, for whatever a person might have done or whatever, very good. Someone came to die for your sins, there's no responsibility. That's the difference. That is one of the main differences. Certainly between Judaism and Christianity. It's about taking responsibility for your actions. If you're a Christian, I don't take any responsibility. Right? Say a few Hail Marys, confession. JC dies for my sins, very good. No responsibility. Judaism's totally not that. Totally against it. Right? So again, idolatry, how did the Midianites get the Jews to sin with idolatry? They put, they put women in front of the doors of the, of the idols or whatever. And they said, listen, you want to be with us, you got to bow. So you have, idolatry and immorality at the same time. Yeah, they go hand in hand. And you see even from the pagans or whatever, you see a lot of their quote unquote ritual services were all immoral, all about immorality. So yeah, justification. Look how many Jews died though. Because of what Bilam did, 24,000. Yeah. So you can say it wasn't real idolatry. You bow down, it's idolatry. Right? But they're bowing down in order to be with these women. Right? So again, both go hand in hand. Idolatry and morality go hand in hand. It's always been that way. Is it okay to rest on Sunday? Yeah. Yeah. Sunday, right, when I was in the States, Sunday, it was an off day. Right, busy carpooling my kids, here and there and everywhere. Right, be with friends, do other things. So yeah, Shabbos time to take in Shabbos, right? If you're a Jew or Jew in training or whatever, right? Very good. So Sunday you don't have to work. Okay, so what are you gonna do? So I want to chill. I want to relax. Great day to learn Torah. Got all day, right? If you got no other obligations, the problem is the person's got a family. Okay, you got to do some family things also, right? If a person has a family, you don't have a family. That's crack the books. You got all day. You got all day. But yeah, it's a day to go out, day to relax. There's this. It depends what you're doing. But, it's a great day to focus on learning. However much a person's going to learn. Again, if a person has a family, you got to deal with family. as well. You can have, some sort of balance. But, it's where we don't have Sunday. Sunday's just a wasted day. Totally wasted day. In a lot of cases. Totally wasted day. Right? Outside of Israel, girls go for a certain amount of time. All right, they don't actually. Sorry, boys go on Sunday. Right? Boys go on Sunday. They go every day. Might be a little bit shorter day, but people sitting and learning, Sunday's a regular day. Right? So yeah, person works Monday to Friday, very good. Sunday's not a day just not to do mitzvahs. They just to say, okay, I'm just going to chill and do nothing. Right? It's a golden opportunity to learn. However much you can. Now, does that mean you can't chill out a little bit? I'm not going to say that. Certainly can. Right? You certainly can, but it's a golden opportunity. Focus on work. I think outside of Israel, the most wasted day. Every you got one day a week. One day a week where people don't do anything. So people get up later. So people work. People work. Or Orthodox Jews, they should be learning on Sunday. At least part of the day. Want to spend part of the day with the family? Okay. Yeah, you don't see your family that much during the week. Very good. Yeah, but it's a golden opportunity to learn. Maybe at least part of the day for sure. Day gets wasted. Day gets wasted. The lack of more to worry about your future. Again, you got to put your best foot forward. No matter what you do, you got to try and prepare to the best of your ability. Right, to the best of your ability, you got to try and prepare. Whatever you need to do. To worry about the future, yeah. You can only, I would say you can only control what you can control, but you're not in control of anything. So yeah, you got to prepare for the future. You got to put your best foot forward, right? Should you worry about it? What's it going to help? Let me ask like that. What's it going to help you to worry? Not going to help you. Right? It's going to make things worse. Whatever you have to take care of, you do to the best of your ability. That's all that God wants. You do to the best of your ability. Sometimes it's better, sometimes not. But at the end of the day, I'm going to sit there and worry about it. Yeah, that's why people have heart attacks. People have anxiety. Different things. By Victor Miller, bless him memory, nothing bothered him. Nothing. Because they know God's in control of everything. It's an old Yiddish expression. We plan, God laughs. But you got to put your best foot forward also. Right? There's no question. Worried about what's going to be with this, what's going to be with that. It's out of your control anyway. Right? You push your best, the Chosov says in Gate of Bitachon, Shar Bitachon, Gate of faith and belief in God, what does he say? He says you got to put your best foot forward. Putting your best foot forward a guarantee for anything? No. It's not a guarantee. You have to do it though. You have to do it. So worrying about the future, you can. It's not going to help. It's not really going to help. I would say concentrate saying a lot of things, and concentrate saying a lot of times during the day. A lot of times during the day, God's the one in charge. He's the one that runs the world. Nothing happens without him. So what am I going to worry about? I got to worry. I got this. I got that. Other things. Good. We got what to worry about. Everyone's got what to worry about. Should focus on worrying about it? Drive you nuts. But is there a lack of emunah? Yeah, it's a lack of emunah. You put your best foot forward. You do what you can do, and that's it. You're not in control. I can't even tell you how many times certain things. Okay, try this, try that, try the other thing. And something comes through the back door you never expected. Never expected. Yeah? And every time we worry, I'll tell you this, based on my own experience. I'm not the only one who feels this. You think this is going to happen and that's going to happen. Guess what? Come through the back door, you have no idea. No idea at all. And why it happens at this time and not some other time, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What's my obligation? Right? What's my obligation? You got to do what the boss says to do. That's what you got to do. And what's going to happen next week? I got to prepare. Okay. Person got a major bill to pay in a week and a half. Okay, how you gonna do it? Where's money coming from? So you got to prepare. Okay. Worrying about it exponentially drive you crazy, right? You got to put your best foot forward. And don't think putting your best foot forward is going to be the answer, but that's what you got to do, right? That's exactly what you got to do, right? So yeah, if we do worry, and it's a normal thing, right? It's a normal thing to worry. The problem is it's not a Torah value. Worrying is not a Torah value. What should the only thing I'll be worried about? I should be afraid of sin. That's what you should be afraid of. That's what you should be worried about. Where are my thoughts? Where are my actions? What have I done? What did I accomplish today? What didn't I accomplish today? Right? How did I interact with others? How did I interact with God today? That's what you should be worried about. Right? Rashi says in Brachos, Tractate Brachos, what should I be afraid of? You know what you should be afraid of? Forgetting Torah. That's what you should be afraid of. That's what you should worry about. All these other things don't matter. Essentially, they don't matter. Right? We worry about them anyway. It's wrong. It's not in our control anyway. It's not in our control. You got to pray a lot. You got to say a lot to him. You got to walk with God. That's what you got to do. Listen, God can change anything in the blink of an eyelash, right? Shu is Hashem K'erfine. Salvation of God comes with the blink of an eyelash. You have no idea where, when, and how. And you keep saying that over and over and over and over again until it becomes part of your soul. Say it ad nauseum. That's how you get through things. But again, you got to put your best foot forward, no question. You got to figure out, okay, I got a bill in a week and a half. How am I going to pay it? Good. It's a good question. How are you going to do it? You got to figure it out. It causes you stress. Okay, you got to put your best foot forward. That's what you got to do. You don't just sit back and say, okay, God's going to help me. Right? You got to pray for that also. And it never goes the way we think. Never. Right? Never goes the way we think. So, no point to worry. Right? And at the end of the day, not only does worrying not help, but guess what? Salvation comes one way or another. May not look pretty, but it comes one way or another. Where you least expected. And in that whole time, you were worried about this, about that, about the other thing, which you thought it was so important to worry about. Guess what? You wasted all that time and all that aggravation worry. Is it worth it? No. That's what I would say. The only reason anything has power is because God gives it power, right? There's no source in the world, wind, fire, water, spiritual forces, celestial beings that have any power unless God wills it. They don't have independent power. That is the fact. First structure is inherent in the Torah text. So if two commandments are in the same verse or separate ones, that makes no difference. I don't know if it does or not. If there are two in the same sentence, maybe one's more important, maybe. I'm throwing it out there. There's a possibility. I'm not sure. You want to tell me it's not that way? It should make no difference. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. I'm not sure. It might not make a difference. Right? There are things that the Torah says in order for a specific reason. Right? Definitely for a specific reason. Okay. Two things in the same verse? Good question. Could be. You could be right. Could be. There's no difference. Could very well be. Again, I'm not, that's what I would say also, I think, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. Ooh, a lot of good questions here. Yeah. Any other questions? As I see, we didn't get that far today, as usual, but I'm going to stop here. I do this every Sunday. Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 4 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com. Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on the Torah portion of the week. Ethics of Our Fathers, Q&As, Book of Leviticus. Anyone wants to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBIChaimCoffman@gmail.com. Wish everyone a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, or end of the day, or almost